Hello everyone and welcome to a game that just finished a couple of minutes ago from today's Title Tuesday, or as they're calling it now, obviously, Title Tuesday Grand Prix. It is Hikaru Nakamura, one of the best Blitz players in the world, versus World Co-Blitz champion Magnus Carlsen. Obviously the higher rated one, but it changes, throughout the day. In the mornings, probably Magnus is better, and in the evenings, Hikaru is better. Or maybe it's the other way around, but as soon as it finished, you guys requested me to show it because of a certain opportunity that was missed during the game. But it's Blitz. It's a 3-minute Blitz. Of course, they cannot see everything, but you guys can. And with the help of your uncle, no doubt you will be able to solve this one. So let's check it out. Hikaru has the white pieces, and he opens with e4. Magnus strikes with the Sicilian defense, pawn to c5. Knight f3, we have pawn to e6 and pawn to c3. So the Alapin variation. We have knight to f6 and pawn to e5, knight to d5, a3, and now pawn to b6 by Magnus, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop, maybe to b7, maybe to a6, all depending on what Hikaru plays. We have pawn to d4, c captures, and bishop to e7. We have bishop to d3, bishop to a6, offering us a trade of light square bishops. We have castles by Hikaru, and Magnus trades on d3. Captures, we have castles and knight b to d2. And here, there are some games where knight to c6 was played, also queen to c8 is a known move, but here we have pawn to d6, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. And we have knight to e4 by Hikaru. Now, that's a very nasty square for the knight. Captures on d6 is no doubt the idea. Maybe some h4, knight g5 action, and you could run into a lot of trouble here. So Magnus plays d captures on e5. We have knight captures, and he kicks away the knight with pawn to f6. Usually, it's not the safest move to play, but if you calculate well and if you don't miss anything, you can play it, of course. Knight f3, and now knight to c6 by Magnus. We have bishop to d2 and queen to d7, nicely connecting rooks. Rook f to e1, we have rook a to c8 and rook a to d1. Centralizing both of the rooks, Magnus does the same, rook f to d8 and knight back to c3. We have bishop to f8 and queen to e4. Putting pressure on that e6 pawn, rook to e8 defending, and knight captures on d5. We have queen captures on d5, queen captures, e captures, and Hikaru trades off a pair of rooks. We have captures, and now rook to c1. Attacking the knight, rook to c8 defending, and king to f1. Both players now bring the kings into the game, king to e2, king to e6, king to d3. We have bishop to d6 and pawn to g3. So the knight can move you, so you don't hang the pawn. Knight to e7, offering a rook trade. We have rook captures, and now knight to e1. Pawn to g5 by Magnus, knight to g2. We have knight to e7, and now pawn to h3. Knight to g6 and pawn to g4. We have pawn to h6 and pawn to f3. So it seems like Hikaru's position is maybe a little bit easier to play, but I mean, it's equal material, bishops of the same color, everything is exactly the same, and objectively it is a draw. But also we have to check out the clock, and the clock is also fairly similar. So let's see what happens. Who is the quicker maneuverer? We have bishop g3, bishop to e3, and pawn to f5, bishop to d2, and now bishop to f2. We have pawn to f4, striking against those kingside pawns, king to f6, and pawn to b3. We have pawn to b5 and pawn to a4. Captures, and now knight to f8. We have bishop to e3, first offering a trade, bishop to g3, bishop back to d2, and now knight to g6. We have a captures on g5 check, h captures, f captures on g5, king captures, and now knight to e3 with check, king to e6, and now knight back to g2. And it doesn't seem like there's all that much to the position, but it could not be further from the truth. We have king to f6, king to e2, and now knight to h4, offering a trade of knights, and Hikaru obliges. We have knight captures, bishop captures, and king f3. And now if you look at the position, it doesn't seem like there's anything more that you can do here, because the king, of course, is not getting through here unless you somehow give him the f5 square, which of course you're not going to do. And you know, it's probably time to call it a draw. Hikaru with twice the time on the clock, but I mean, Magnus can pretty much pre-move here. King f5, we have bishop to a5, pawn to a6, Magnus putting pawns on light squares, as you should when your opponent has a dark square bishop. Bishop to b4, and king to g6. We have bishop to c3, king to f5, king to f5, and now bishop to d2. We have king to g6, king to g4, and king to f6. We have bishop to a5, king to g6, and now Hikaru plays bishop to d8, which sort of puts Magnus in zugzwang. He cannot play a5, that will cost him a pawn. This pawn cannot move, and you don't really have a good square for your king. Where is your king going? If you move the king away from the defense of the g5 pawn, Hikaru will just capture it. So the only way for Magnus to counter is to counter. He plays bishop to f2, goes after the d4 pawn, and now they trade passed pawns, or rather they trade pawns that are preventing their pawns from becoming passed pawns. Bishop captures on g5, bishop captures on d4, now Hikaru with the passed h pawn and Magnus with the passed d pawn. h4, we have bishop to c3, and now pawn to h5 with check. King to f7, king to f5, and now bishop to b2. We have bishop to f4, and what can Magnus do? In the game, pawn to d4 was played, which loses Magnus the game. And also, one thing that's very important going into the game is that Hikaru was on 8 out of 8 going into this round 9 game, and Magnus was on 7.5 out of 8. He got a draw, I think, very early on in the tournament against Luca Moroni. But okay, pawn to d4 by Magnus. The trick here is that the position is a draw, and Magnus should just play bishop g7, and that's it. Hikaru has no way of moving forward. You cover all of the squares here with the king, bishop, and pawn, so there's no advancing, and if h6, you can even capture it. And that's the beauty of chess. You can even give up these two pawns because the pawn is of the wrong color. It queens on a light square, and you have a dark square bishop, so you're not going to be able to kick away the black king from the corner. So black's plan is very simple. Black's just going to put a king on a8, give up the two pawns, and it's a draw. But Magnus plays pawn to d4. He gives Hikaru a chance to win the game, and the good thing for Hikaru is that pretty much anything he plays is winning here, and he finds, of course, the simplest winning idea. King e4, we have king to g7, king to d3, king to h7, and now king to c4, and Magnus now plays bishop to c3. And there are ways for you to win the game, but it's not like there's a winning move. There's a technique you have to use here, and it's not easy, of course. Hikaru 15 seconds on the clock, but you know, if you told him there's a win here, of course he would find it, but he missed it in the game. However, how would you win this? You know, soak in the position, and how do you win this endgame? While I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, and I imagine that's all of you, and while I was explaining this, I forgot that this was a blitz game, and I'm still using the interface from the Capablanca versus Alekhine video. That's why it says it's a classical game. My apologies for that. But okay, I've changed it. For those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to d3. You could also play around a little bit, but your king needs to be on d3 to win this. And now after black plays anything, let's say king g7, you will play bishop to d2, and that's key. You have to trade off the bishops. If the bishops get traded off, you just win this pawn, then you win this pawn, and while black is busy going after this pawn, you will claim the b7 square or b8 squares and just advance your passed a pawn to victory. So black will have to avoid the trade, and now look at the easy win. Pawn to h6 check, king to g6, and now king to c2. Okay, black plays whatever. There's really no move you can make here. King b3, and now after repeating king g6 once again, you play king a2, and this is how you force a trade of bishops. And once the bishop comes to c3, you will trade. King b3, black of course has to capture. You will capture this pawn, and after king g6, king to b4, king to f6, king to a5, king goes here, king captures on a6, you are just in time to claim the b7 square, you are shouldering off the black king, and now the a pawn becomes a queen, and you easily win the game. However, Hikaru missed this. Hikaru played bishop to e5, which is one of the few moves that allows Magnus to get an instant draw, as he has given up the h6 square. Magnus claims the square with his king, king h6, bishop captures on d4, and bishop to e1. You still cannot trade bishops. If you trade bishops, you're going to lose the game. The problem is the pawn is on a light square, and Hikaru cannot defend this pawn. We have bishop to c3. Magnus again declines the trade, and now king to d5. King captures on h5, and now, okay, like we said, even if there's no way for you to win this. We have king to c6, king g6, king to b7, bishop to h4, king captures on a6. Yes, you won the pawn, but there is no way to promote it. King moves, okay, you cannot cross the a5 square, and now Hikaru will try to block the bishop, bishop e5, he will try to go bishop to c7, but of course Magnus will not allow that. Bishop to a5, it's the only move that gets you a draw, but not a difficult one to find if you know that bishop c7 is winning for Hikaru. So he plays it. Hikaru challenges the bishop, and Magnus continues controlling the a5 square. Now Hikaru will try to trade off the bishops again. Magnus gets closer with his king. Hikaru offers a trade, and now Magnus trades because his king is just in time. King to d7, we have king to b7, king to c8, and now king to a7. If Hikaru does not have control of these squares, then it's not going to be a win. Pawn king to a7, we have king to c7, and now Hikaru started pushing his pawn, but whatever you play, it will be a stalemate. So here a7 was played, Magnus played king to c7, and it is a draw by stalemate. Hikaru has no squares, and that's pretty much it. So it was a pretty good opportunity for Hikaru. He missed it, but yeah, that was definitely the way to do it. Attack the bishop, prevent the bishop from escaping, so a trade must happen, and that's how you win this endgame. So, well, the game is not a most exciting one. I hope you got something out of this endgame, and that you will be able to use this knowledge to win as many games as possible against your adversaries. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Getting back to the modern chess a little bit. Hope you enjoyed that as well. I would like to thank Brian Baker, Michael Santos, Ryan Canus, Isaac Pinol Katadao, and Everett Mulder for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.